What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be going over more of the pChal and Pointcrow Nuzlocke Invitational, and we have another winners round 1 match between Chris Melberger versus AlanahIRL, and we are going to be analyzing this from a competitive VGC perspective standpoint. And if you don't know who I am not the best Nuzlocker in the world. I'm not the best VGC player in the world either. I haven't won a world championship, but I do have 10 consecutive world championship invites, have multiple titles, and I have a lot of experience just coaching VGC in general, from beginners to even the level of world champions. And one thing I do want to make sure to keep a note of is that this video is meant to be for educational purposes. It is not to dog on the players for their mistakes. It is basically a video that's supposed to educate about, like, okay, why are these plays maybe great or unoptimal, and point out the things that they could have done better. That is basically the goal of this video. These competitors have very little Pokemon experience, and they only had like about a month to compete in this Pokemon Nuzlocke challenge, and then they only had like a week to prepare for the actual tournament, which is VGC like rule sets, and you can't really learn competitive Pokemon in that short amount of time. So there will be mistakes, and my job here is to point them out and go over like why they're mistakes. So that is the goal of this video, but otherwise let's get started and start analyzing the competitors' teams. All right, let's go over Chris's team. And if you don't know, each of the competitors were assigned a Nuzlocke coach, and in this case Chris was coached by Moxie. And for those of you who do know things about VGC, no, we're not talking about Moxie boosted, it's just MOXI. And I'm a big fan of Moxie, man. He has one of my favorite Nuzlocke videos ever, his run and bun video, which actually just recently hit 1 million views. So I highly recommend checking it out because I think it's a fantastic video. But this is Chris's team, and it is probably one of the most offensive teams in the entire tournament. So we have a hyper offensive rain size spam team where you have this damp rock drizzle for alligator that's able to set up the rain, do some pretty strong damage. And then you have some fasts mode with the Inteleon with water moves that can take advantage of the drizzle, but also that speed swap tech with Focus Sash, Psychic Surge that's able to summon the Psychic Terrain. Yes, if you don't know that these abilities were randomized because it was a randomizer that they played as their Nuzlocke, the stats of the Pokemon and the typings didn't change, but the movesets and TMs were randomized. So that is that. We have a pretty strong Inteleon, and for alligator mode with the size spam and the drizzle, setting up the Psychic Terrain, stopping priority, summoning the rain, powering up the water type moves. You have speed swap, which is just really cool because Inteleon is one of the fastest Pokemon in this entire tournament, and what you can do is speed swap and swap the speed with your ally, and that's pretty big because it allows this choice band Mamoswine to go absolutely crazy. Like, it has glacial lens and high horsepower. Its coverage is really strong for this tournament, and it can just wreck teams if positioned well, and that speed swap definitely helps this Mamoswine to just break through some faster mons and really just put on the pressure. Then we have this Mew, which is pretty bulky and has the Psy Strike, which is boosted by that Psychic Terrain from the Inteleon, and can be a wild card because that Nuzzle having that guaranteed chance to paralyze an opponent can definitely be a big factor here. And then you have things like this Dragapult, which is able to hit pretty hard with that Poltergeist and Dynamax Cannon off that Life Orb. You have Stomp with the Serene Grace for like a 60% chance, I believe, to flinch, which is something. And then the Slowbro, which is actually really good because it can take advantage of both the Rain and the Psychic Terrain to power up its moves, and has Follow Me. And a bulky Pokemon like Slowbro with Follow Me is fantastic. So that is Chris's offensive rain team. Then we have Team Alanah, coached by Luke, and yeah, this is going to be quite an interesting team. I know Team Alanah did have a lot of difficulties because there were like tech issues and a bunch of other things. Like, I think Alanah had to go through the Elite Four without the coach, which makes it hard. They also got super unlucky when it came to items as well as TMs, but overall it is a pretty interesting team, mainly because it has this wild card factor. Electrode is actually one of the fastest Pokemon in this tournament. It's the second fastest after the Deoxys, and this is actually supposed to be Deoxys attack. So those attacks from a Choice Specs Deoxys can just blow through teams at the cost of being super frail and just getting one shot by like any attack in the entire tournament. So this Deoxys has to wall break. Unfortunately, their moveset isn't super great. Photon Guy is a really strong psychic type move. There's Dragon Sand for flying coverage, but it can't take advantage of the choice specs. Air Slash, which is a decently powerful special flying move, but it's not like super powerful. And then Psychic Fangs, again, can't take advantage of the choice specs. Can break screens, but screens aren't really relevant in this tournament, so quite unfortunate there. But it is going to be a really big offensive wall breaker. And yeah, especially with the Spore Electrode, this Bright Powder, if you miss, you have chances. I do think Alanah probably does have one of the weakest teams in the tournament. I'd say I don't think it's the weakest team, but I think it is one of the weaker teams. Bright Powder Electrode though with Spore that puts opponents to sleep can definitely change the tide though, especially because this Deoxys can definitely get a KO if set up properly. Then you have things like this Wigglytuff, which realistically it's a Wigglytuff. I mean, it's good into the meta of Dragapult, but that's really it otherwise. And I'm just gonna say spoiler, they said not to bring Wigglytuff, and Wigglytuff is pretty weak in this tournament. Chandelure, which has some pretty interesting facts. No retreat, which is Phalanx's signature move, which increases its stats by 1 at the cost of not being able to switch. Although since Chandelure is a ghost type, you can actually switch out after no retreat, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, Tinted Lens, so it powers up moves when it is resisted, so it can hit pretty hard. Although Magma Storm and Flamethrower and Draco Meteor, I mean, good fire moves are pretty much the important part, but a bit unfortunate they didn't get like a really good ghost move here. This Corviknight is the only Corviknight in the tournament as well. It is able to go for, you know, it's a Corviknight. It has Recover, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, it has Dragon Sand as this flying coverage, which lowers defenses. It's pretty strong, but it's not like super ideal. Glare for the paralysis chance and Lunge are pretty nice for the attack drop. And then this Quick Claw Slowbro with, you know, some decent coverage across the board. But yeah, it's not like the most ideal construction of a VGC team. It's really hard to judge this kind of team. I think a lot of this is like positioning the offensive sweepers, mainly going to be your Chandelure Deoxys. You have the Spore Electrode again that gives a wild card factor, and then the Corviknight could maybe do some things if you are able to set it up in the proper stall position, but it is a bit more difficult because again, it is Dragon Send as its main move. But we'll see how this goes. We're going to get into the analysis of the team, and then we're going to get into the matches. All right, so let's go over the matchup. If you don't know, I had like a matchup doc of all the potential matchups that could be encountered on this tournament. And yeah, we have Chris versus Alanah. And I'd say the matchup is kind of evenish, I'd say, but I'd probably say in my favor a bit more towards Alanah, mainly because Electrode is actually kind of an annoying mon for Chris because they don't have the best counterplay to Spore, as well as the Deoxys is pretty dang powerful, especially if you have to bring the Inteleon, which sets up Psychic Terrain, which powers up the Deoxys even further, so it can definitely be annoying. But there are a few things that Chris does have to mitigate it. So Chris's win con is basically damage control between the Electrode and the Deoxys, because ideally you want to KO Deoxys. You have a few things that help with it, which is the Sash and Inteleon, although you do have to be careful because again, powering up its Psychic type moves aren't ideal, so you don't want it to get more than one hit off ideally. You also have the redirection with the Slowbro, which can help out immensely, while Mamoswine's really good offensively against Alanah's team, so that's definitely something that can be capitalized on. For Alanah's side, you want to make sure that your Deoxys is in a good position to get knockouts, especially because that Choice Specs Photon Geyser is really hard for Chris to switch into, especially with the Psychic Terrain. And you might have to watch out for the Nuzzle on the Mew, because the Nuzzle on Mew is kind of annoying for Alanah in general, mainly because that paralysis would be a really big deal, especially into the Deoxys. So those are probably the main controls. Like, Chris doesn't have to rely on the Mew, although Nuzzle is still pretty good, mainly because of that paralysis, and it's one of the mons that can take advantage of the Psychic Terrain on his side, as well as live probably a Photon Geyser from the Choice Specs Deoxys, even in the Psychic Terrain. So it is a pretty big deal, but it's mainly resource management. How well can Alanah use her offensive capabilities of the Electrode plus the Deoxys, while on Chris's side, how do you make sure you get rid of those quickly without taking too much damage, right? So that is basically how this is going to go. And something I do want to note is that if you are one of the compares and you somehow watch this video, or if you're a big content creator and you want to learn more about competitive Pokemon and competitive VGC, feel free to hit me up and I will provide some free coaching lessons, because I do love this game, and I really do. All I ask for is, if you do hit me up, is if you do find yourself enjoying competitive Pokemon, share it with your audience, because I love when more people discover this game. I absolutely love competitive Pokemon, even with its imperfections, because it's an imperfect knowledge game with the chess and the poker-like elements. It's just something really unique and magical. So that is all I'm asking for, but otherwise let us get started and get into the match. All right, so we see the Slowbro Electro lead versus the Mamoswine and Slowbro lead. I actually really like this lead on both sides. So having that redirection with the Slowbro is pretty crucial for Chris because it allows Mamoswine to get the big damage off. Maybe trying to catch maybe something like a Deoxys plus Electro lead, which would be been a really good position, I think, for Chris, because he would just be able to follow me Glacial Lance and potentially threaten the double knockout, while Alanah, the Deoxys moves first, so it can't KO the Slowbro, and then Electro has to target down the Slowbro on Chris's side at the redirection. I like the idea of Alanah keeping Deoxys in the back because you want to set up for Deoxys in a good position, right? To be able to sweep. So let's see, there are two different options. You could go for, I mean, Glacial Lance is really strong here and it just gets heavy damage, and you need damage on the Slowbro. It's a bit hard to damage on Chris's side, and the redirection just makes sense because you don't want Mamoswine to be put to sleep. Alanah could either go for like a Volt Switch or could go for a Spore immediately, probably with like a Moongeist Beam follow-up, I'd assume. Either get rid of the Slowbro immediately, like you could maybe like Volt Switch in like Coronite or something, but we'll see. Follow Me is going to come out from the Slowbro as Spore comes out into the Slowbro. So Slowbro hasn't taken a turn of sleep. Is there Bright Powder activation? Because that would be big. Hits the Glacial Lance and KOs the Electro. So super strong turn for Chris, knocking out the Slowbro, but I don't hate this position with Alanah because Moongeist Beam is going to do a ton of damage to this Slowbro, and the Slowbro is going to heal with Ripen, so doubles the effect of the Citrus Berry, so it gets 50% recovery. But honestly, pretty solid turn from both sides. It probably favors Alanah, I'd assume. I'd imagine you bring out the Deoxys now, because I assume you go for the strong hit. Yeah, that should be Deoxys. Yep. So now what's nice about the Spore, you might be thinking, oh, but the Slowbro could have got knocked out turn one to like maybe a Thunder immediately or Volt Switch. The Spore covered if like the Slowbro didn't go for the Mamoswine, and the Slowbro on Chris's side was like not going to get a knockout onto the Electrode. So if the redirection Follow Me did happen, then what allows this to do is Alanah for to set up this board position of Deoxys, able to just click Photon Geyser and get a KO into the left slot on Chris's team, while the Slowbro on Alanah's side could probably Moongeist Beam and it might be a range, but KO the Slowbro on Chris's side, allowing for a double knockout. Then the Deoxys might be able to get one more Photon Geyser off and really be in a good position because Chris doesn't have any priority moves. So this could actually be a really good spot for Alanah. I do think that both plays were very reasonable, but I think Alanah came out on top. But it could come down to some sleep turns from the Slowbro, and if Slowbro lives this Moongeist Beam, but we'll see. But I think Alanah always just clicks Photon Geyser, and it looks like Chris is going to sack the Mamoswine, but I'm kind of curious on what he has in the back. We'll see. The Slowbro is going to stay asleep. The Photon Geyser is going to come out into the Mamoswine and pick up that knockout. So Mamoswine does go down as Moongeist Beam. This is going to be an important KO because if it doesn't KO, the Slowbro has a chance to wake up and redirect the Deoxys attack. Ooh, that's a big survival. Okay. It's Inteleon and the Dragapult back. I'm gonna go Dragapult first, which is interesting. Surprised it wasn't the Inteleon because Inteleon had to focus Sash. So I think this could actually be a mistake here because now, I mean, you still have to get the first turn. Now you have to get the first turn wake. If you don't get the first turn wake, you're in a bad spot, but yeah, you stay asleep. That's just the nature of Spore. Photon Geyser is going to take the knockout on the Dragapult. But here's the thing. Even if you do trade here, like the Slowbro for the Deoxys, I don't know how much Moongeist Beam does from the Slowbro. That would have been a lot to the Dragapult that takes Life Orb chip. You might have still lost anyway. So that's why you have to bring probably Inteleon in, because the Focus Sash guarantees survival. Even if you get the Psychic Terrain up, this thing was one-shotting everything on your team anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. I think you would probably prefer just getting rid of the Deoxys or forcing it out off the field. So then you could, like if Slowbro goes down the upcoming turn, then you have Dragapult that's faster with Inteleon, can actually maybe pick up knockouts if Alanah decides to preserve the Deoxys. Otherwise, they would have gone down to the Steam Eruption. So just brought out the wrong Pokemon if you're Chris's side. Now should be just a loss because Inteleon doesn't get the KO into Slowbro. But Alanah did play this well. Like, she set up a really good, I think, lead. and was just able to capitalize on, again, just being able to, even with the trade out the electrode, which was good in this matchup, the fact that the Deoxys was able to get some free attacks, right? Like, it got 2 photon geysers, and yeah, there's like sleep turns, but you can't really rely on this like safely, I think, if you're Chris's side. So yeah, I think that was a very solid game plan from both players. It just, again, Chris could have had a little bit of a better switch option, but yeah, otherwise Alanah did play that extremely well too. All right, we're gonna see Slowbro Electrode lead again versus Mamoswine plus the Slowbro lead for Chris. Are we gonna be rolling sleep turns? I'm guessing so. There's not really much else you could really do differently. You probably still want the Glacial Lance damage, and you probably want to go for Follow Me, because if the Mamoswine gets put to sleep, it's really cooked. It's really cooked if the Mamoswine goes to sleep, because then you have no damage output against the Electrode, which just spreads spores on the team otherwise. We're gonna see Follow Me come out. Spore gonna come out into the Slowbro, so this might just be a repeat of game 1. Did Chris find a line? If he found a line with Inteleon, he might have a chance. No Bright Powder again affecting the Electrode. The Electrode just goes down, and Moongeist Beam again. Oh, I don't love that Steam Eruption. I don't like that Steam Eruption. Maybe she's playing around Berry, because the Slowbro didn't get the Berry, so I guess maybe it gives her better odds of Moongeist Beam. Actually, that might have been a better play than I thought, because if it plays around the Berry, I don't know if how much the Moongeist Beam minimum range is. That actually might be a better play, because now the Slowbro is technically lower than when it has Citrus Berry from Ripened. So I mean, it's the same option from Alanah. I assume the Photon Geyser just always KOs the Mamoswine. And then if you get rid of the Slowbro here on Chris's side, you might actually just have the guaranteed win. The reason why Chris had a better shot of winning the last game was because of the fact that the Slowbro survived the Moongeist Beam. But this actually is smart from Alanah. This is smart. I didn't realize Steam Eruption was doing that much to Slowbro. The Moongeist Beam going to come out. Oh, but it still survives, so... Ooh, I think that was a low roll too. Unfortunate for Alanah. But I mean, she's not out of it by far. She still gets a KO on the Mamoswine, I assume. A critical hit, I just don't think that matters. That's Choice Specs Deoxys. It might come down to 2 factors, and they're all okay. Chris sees it. Chris sees it. Good one here. Chris does see it. Brings out the Inteleon. There are only a few things that could screw over this position, which involve Slowbro staying asleep and or Quick Claw from the Slowbro. Okay, Slowbro stays asleep, unfortunately, but no Quick Claw activation. Photon Geyser will take the knockout into, or not take the knockout, but bring it to Sash, and then Steam Eruption should allow you to KO the Deoxys. Yep. So Deoxys goes down, and this was the better trade from game 1. Luckily, Chris did see the line this time, so that's definitely an improvement there. Moongeist Beam is going to come out and finish off the Slowbro. So this is interesting, actually, because there's your Dragapult back. Who's the last Pokemon? Yeah, I really like Chris's route this time. Like, his line is way better in this one. Who is Smorin? The Corviknight. Okay. I think you're in decent shape, but I mean, it's still a little bit tricky. So the reason this is tricky is because this Corviknight has, I think it's Citrus Berry, and this Dragapult has Poltergeist as his ghost attack. So Poltergeist uses the enemy's item in order to hit the opponent, but if the opponent doesn't have an item, the move fails. So I think what you need to do is go for Steam Eruption. Hope that the Steam Eruption puts the Dragapult, or puts the Corviknight above 50%, like just slightly above 50%, not to activate a berry. And then, yeah, then you have to defend that Poltergeist KOs with Life Orb. You also have, if you're Alanah, your hope is A, that the Steam Eruption activates the Citrus Berry, and or B, that Slowbro gets a Quick Claw and KOs the Inteleon before it gets the Steam Eruption. If that's the case, Chris could still win off a crit on the Poltergeist, but yeah, it's I don't, did he double, I guess did he double the Corviknight? I guess he doubled the Corviknight, which, I mean, this is fine too. Oh, but the Quick Claw activates. Alanah did have an out here and goes for the Freezing Glare to KO the Inteleon. So that's unfortunate for Chris's side. That's definitely a bit lucky, but that is the nature of sticking around too long. Let's see how much Poltergeist does. Can he get a crit into Corviknight to take the knockout? It does not. Again, it comes down to how much Steam Eruption does into the Corviknight. It's not like Torrent boosted in Teleon because it's Psychic Surge. So a bit unfortunate there for Chris, because if the Steam Eruption does like the less than 50%, then it works out. I don't think Surf KOs the Corviknight at that range, like Surf into Poltergeist to play around Citrus. I think you had to go for Steam Eruption. But yeah, I mean, Drop Kick into Slowbro. I mean, the game's kind of over at this point. You could have Poltergeisted, but Transcend into the Dragapult as Moongeist Beam. I think if you're Alanah, you probably want to just Roost. And if you're Chris, you want to Poltergeist KO the Slowbro and hope you stomp flinch the Corviknight to put in range of Dynamax Cannon. So Alanah takes the win. I think both players, I mean, they played really well at the start, especially like the leads were pretty good and reasonable from both players. I think Alanah had the better line, and Chris missed like who to bring in the game 1, found it in the game 2. The Quick Claw activated, which is just a bit unfortunate, but Alanah did play really great. The Steam Eruption was actually like a really good call. Again, it would have worked out if she got like the same roll in game 1, because I think in game 1 is 124 HP Silver was remaining, and it was like 116 or 117. So if she got the same roll, it would have just KO'd at that point, but unfortunately didn't. But both players actually played well. Like that was actually pretty impressive for like that matchup. Like that's actually like how the matchup I would expect to go. So coaches did well with the lines, and the players actually executed pretty well. And that is the match. So I think overall the players did have really great openers. I think for the most part, like their leads made sense and what their game plans at the start were. I think just Alanah had a bit better execution than Chris and was able to win because of that, because Chris did make a few mistakes as we saw towards the middle of the game generally, and Alanah was able to really capitalize and set up for a really strong Deoxys cleanup especially. So if you would like to know more about competitive Pokemon, make sure you check out the rest of the channel, because we have a lot here and I will be reacting to every single match from the Nuzlocke Invitational. So if you are interested in that, please let me know which match you would like to see next down below in the comments. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more VGC content as always.